You're listening to The EJ Adler Show, only on LA Talk Radio.
Shalom, amigos. Welcome to the EJ Adler Show. Thank you for tuning in. I am EJ Adler. Quick reminder, I am a huge, strong supporter of Israel, and I have no tolerance for hate from any side. So if that's what you're looking for, this is not the show for you. We are open to everybody as long as we keep it civil, no name calling, no insults, no hate. With that in mind, I want to tell you a story about a little girl growing up in Mexico City. I was maybe 4 or 5 years old when my mother told me the truth about Santa Claus. I'm going to share that truth with you right now. This is the honest to goodness truth about Santa Claus. You might be shocked, but Santa Claus is actually Jewish. His real name is Chris Kringelman. He works on Christmas Day. One of his reindeer, his favorite reindeer, in fact, is named Blitzen. Do you need my proof? So the fact of the matter is that Santa is kind of like an angel and beautiful soul, kind, generous soul who brings kids their gifts on their special holiday, be it Christmas, Hanukkah, and he doesn't discriminate. As long as you're good, he does have a list and he checks it more than twice. But without any delay, let me introduce you to my very special guest this evening, the real Jewish Santa Claus.
Good day, all.
Welcome, Santa. I am so grateful that you took up the time. I know this is the busiest time for you right now. You're getting all your gifts ready. Your elves are working day and night. And Mrs. Claus is busy baking a lot of cookies. She makes the best cookies, by the way.
Yes, she does. That's why I look the way I do.
Santa, tell me, I know you're Jewish, and I know that when you're not working hard in the North Pole, you also are a member of a very important and nice temple in Calabasas, right?
That's correct.
And guess what, people? He's not only delivering gifts in the high holidays for the Jewish people. Guess what Santa does? He blows the shofar.
Yes.
How did you come to do that, Santa?
Our synagogue formed in 1985, and our first high holy days, the gentleman that was blowing shofar for the synagogue blew it for 2 years while our synagogue was kind of forming and establishing. And in the second year, I was sitting next to him, and Alex came up to me and he said, Stan, he says, I'm done. I don't remember how old Alex was, but he says, it's time for you to start blowing shofar. And I guess I've been doing it now for about 35 years. And I blow either the lamb's horn, the
Uh-huh.
lamb's one, or the kudu, which is the African antelope, which is the other kosher one that can be used to blow shofar.
I didn't know about that. Shame on me. Santa, I know that kids are always asking for puppies. And you usually don't like to bring puppies because then it becomes a responsibility for the parents. And sometimes the puppy grows up and it's not as adorable and it's a lot of work. And then people send them back to the shelter or just get rid of them. What do you have to say about that, Santa, please?
Well, when a child comes up and sits on my lap or sits and talks to me and says, Santa, what I want for Christmas is I want a puppy. And although you'd like to give every child whatever they want, it's hard to explain to a young one like that why you can't have a puppy, or if your parents decide it's okay, that it's okay to do that. One of the things that many of us that are doing this would say that Santa's a toy maker. He makes toys. He doesn't do electronics. He doesn't do live animals. He's a toy maker. So if you have a toy that you're interested, let me know. And the other thing that I say personally is that having an animal is a big responsibility. You have to clean up after the animal, you have to take care of it. If it's a dog, you have to walk it, you have to feed it. And what happens if your poor animal gets sick? Who's going to pay for the vet bills? Mom and dad will have to. So you need to be a little bit older to be able to have a pet.
E-
So, what kind of a toy would you like?
Exactly. And on that note, if the parent is ready, whether you have a child or not, but you're ready to have a beautiful, loving companion, please open your heart and your home to a sheltered pet. Don't go out and buy one. You know, animals in the shelters are loving, loyal, and grateful when you take them out of the shelter. And this week, I want to feature a very, very special dog. I'm going to read from my phone the description. Look at how gorgeous that dog is. And this is his information. He was rescued from Israel, and his name is Coco. And it's in need of a foster or permanent placement. He's 1 year old Australian Shepherd mix, and Coco was rescued as a puppy in Israel shortly after the invasion of the evil terrorists. Oh, it's a she, I'm sorry. Her injuries required amputation of her left hind leg, but she's fully recovered. She can run, play, and keep up with the best of them. Coco recently arrived in Los Angeles and needs immediate placement in a home. She's housebroken, walks well on leash, gets along with both cats and dogs, and is very gentle with kids. She's also been receiving training here to assist with her transition. This sweet girl is up to date with vaccinations, spayed, microchipped, and overall very healthy. If I didn't have already three rescued, I would I would certainly take this beautiful girl. If you're interested, please contact. It's an email. It's inquiries at dov, D-O-V, slash project.org. Inquiries at dov, D-O-V, slash project.org. I'm not sure if it's a slash or it's a line, not the underline, but the line. That's not a lash, a slash. I don't want to give the wrong information. Anyway, open your hearts, your home, and if this is not the right puppy for you, I can't imagine why. But please, if you're thinking of a dog or a cat, a bunny, go to a shelter and save a life. Actually, you'll be saving two lives, the life of the animal you take, and then the life opens up a space for another one. And remember, dogs are not things. They're not returnable. You don't get rid of them if they get sick or they get too old, because you wouldn't do that with a human. Why would you do it? Well, some people do, but why would you do it with an animal? But going back to Santa, Santa, you have a secret identity when you're not in the North Pole, and I'm going to reveal it if you don't mind. You go by the name of Stan Tubb, and you do a lot of wonderful things for people. When you decided to show your identity with the world, why did you do that, Santa? Why did you start showing yourself when it's not Christmas and doing all these wonderful things for kids all over the place?
It's really hard to answer that question. I'm not sure myself. I know I started many years ago, and as I've mentioned to you once before, I'm a member of the Shriners Hospital for Children, which is a great organization. And I do a lot of work down at the Shrine Auditorium down by USC in downtown LA area. And I've been doing it with the Shriners for years. Years ago, one of my friends who is a Shriner convinced me that this is where I belonged, and it turned out he was right. This is where I belong. We do a lot of charitable functions for not only the shrine, which, if I can say, this October this December 22nd at the Shrine Auditorium. They're having a big motorcycle venue there where they're expecting about 200 motorcycles coming in with a truck full of nothing but toys. They're going to be bringing children in from schools that are with underprivileged children. We're going to feed them there at the Shrine Auditorium. And as they leave, they get to go through the line of all the toys and pick up toys and take them home. So this is something, I believe this is the 8th year that the Shriners have done it with this group. And I will be there to take pictures with everybody. If you'd like to come down, by all means, we'd love to see you come down. Bring an unwrapped toy for our toy chest, and we'd love to see you. But that's basically how this whole thing started for me. And because of my younger daughter and my older daughter too, they found several organizations involving Santas that I ended up getting involved with and becoming a member of.
That's wonderful. If people want more information, is there a phone number or a website that they can go to for this event?
The temple is Al Malika, ALMALAIKAH, Al Malika Shrine. They're at 665 Jefferson in downtown LA. They could look it up and either get the phone number and call and get information, or they can look it up on Google, and I'm sure that it's posted there with a picture of Santa riding a motorcycle.
When is the event?
December 22nd. It's a Sunday morning. It'll start at 10 in the morning. It'll go through till about 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
I expect to see you there, people. Remember, there's a list. And now I'm helping Santa check it more than twice. So if you want to be good and not naughty, come by with an unwrapped new toy, right?
Correct.
And enjoy the festivities and make something that's going to make you feel wonderful. It's going to make you feel wonderful. I've done this with other organizations. And when you see the child looking at you with those beautiful, beautiful, grateful eyes, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
No comparison. Santa, I know that you have a lot of helpers around this time and they go around. There are a lot of Jewish Santas out there, right?
There are a lot more than people realize. If you were to look at me and not realize it, that I'm Jewish. And sometimes I do have fun. We go out onto a visitation and something, and then you hear one of the parents start talking to the other parents about, well, what kind of a tree are you putting up this year? Are you putting up a real one to get that fresh smell? You putting up a phony one? And they'll come up and look at me, and I look at them and I say, I'm not putting up a tree. And Santa, why aren't you putting up a tree? And that's what I let them know. I'm Jewish. And I get a lot of chuckles and laughs because they think it's very unusual that Santa is Jewish. And I've been doing, like I say, this for years. And I have several in the Los Angeles area. I have one Santa who I'd like to mention. His name is Dana Friedman. Dana is an attorney in New York. Dana was involved and was there during the 9/11, where they had the demolition of the two towers. And he did not know what to do, but he wanted to do something. And a lot of the friends of his said, Dana, you have a white beard, dress up as Santa. And he never thought about doing that, but he's been doing it ever since. He goes and visits homes and hospitals and stuff like that. And he's just a great guy. I've never had the opportunity to meet him in person, but he and we are on Facebook together. We've talked on the phone together. In fact, I just got a present from him the other day. He sent me a scroll that you just unroll, and one side says naughty children and one says nice children.
Wow.
And so it was a very nice surprise. But there are a lot, it's not only Jewish Santas, but Santas in general. I haven't seen one Santa yet that didn't have a kind heart and wasn't willing to work with and help people.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Well, I grew up knowing your true identity, Santa, because my mother told me. And her explanation was just perfect, and you're Jewish and you're like an angel and you're so kind-hearted and wonderful that you don't care what religion or race or any other affiliation the child or the parent might be. You just care that they're good people.
That's right.
And if they're good people, they get rewarded, right?
One of the groups that I belong to, we have Santas, all kinds of Santas. Uh, we have one that's black. We have an Asian one. We have Caucasians. We have all kinds that are in there, and they're all just super kind-hearted people. I can see the work that they do, and I meet them in person right now. I won't mention where, but the last weekend in January, we're having a reunion, and we go to a hotel and we party and we have classes and we just meet and just have a good time. So we're looking forward to it, Mrs. Claus and I.
That's nice. Tell me about Mrs. Claus. How did you two meet?
How did I meet Mrs. Claus? Well, how far do you want to go back? She and I have been together 59 years, married 55 years. And she was visiting out of Chicago. And we met and started dating. And 4 years later, we got married after I got back from a tour. And we've been married ever since then. She and I have gone out on several visitations together, mostly my charitable ones to be there with the children. Unfortunately, Mrs. Claus has taken ill, and she is no longer able to do the Mrs. Claus role. So I'm on my own to do it. But other than that, we've been together a long time, and that's been a great thing.
Sorry to hear about her troubles, but we'll be sure to keep her in our prayers. So, Santa, I've been meaning to ask you this. Do you have a favorite reindeer?
It's funny you should ask that question. I get that asked a lot of times, and of course, Santa can't have a favorite reindeer, although Rudolph has come into the picture, and he's the one that lights his nose up and guides my sleigh at night. But one of the questions I like to ask the children and even the adults, and that is, how many reindeer does Santa have? And most of the adults can guess. Some of them, they're not sure. The children seem to know more of how many reindeer I have and can count them off one after another. And the fun I have with the adults is that after determining the 8 reindeer that have Dasher, Dancer, Prancer, Vixen, Comet, Cupid, Donner, and Blitzen, we also have Rudolph, which is 9. And then I let them know that we do have a 10th reindeer, a little girl.
Oh,
And they say, "Really, Santa?" And I says, "Yes." "Well, what's her name?" And I say, "Her name is Olive. You know, Olive
the
the
other
other reindeer."
reindeer.
And boy, that sure gets a good chuckle out of them.
Yeah, that's funny. That's cute. I love that. And excuse me. What is the present that you get asked mostly?
Oh, not as much this year as last year, but last year, most of the children were asking for iPads. And one of the fun things that Santas like to do, um, and that is they'll go to the local pharmacy and you can buy these iPads. They're little pads that when you have an infected eye, you can put over your eye. And when a child asks for an iPad, you can reach into your little pocket here and grab it out and give it to them. And it says iPad, EYEPAD on it. And they go, "Oh, Santa." But that's one of the things. A lot of them are doing uh, the oh, my mind is drawing a blank on it now. But they want electronics games and toys and stuff like that. And it seems to be the biggest thing. The hard part is to explain to a child why you can't do that. You have to do it understanding, seeing an adult, the parent or the guardian behind them looking at you going, "No, no," that they're not going to be able to do it. So you have to get around that. And usually what I explain to the child is that we don't do much in electronics. We have one elf that works on electronics, so he can't do a lot of them. So every once in a while we can find one, but I'm not sure that I'd be able to get you this year. So what I usually tell them is that be understanding that whatever Santa's going to give you, It's going to be something that you're really going to like this year. You're going to have a lot of fun with, and maybe next year we could talk about something else. But usually it's whatever Santa gets you, you're going to like, and they appreciate that. And usually that solves the problem.
Yeah. You know, when I was little, I one of my favorite movies is Miracle on 34th Street.
Yes.
And when I was little, for many years, I used to ask Santa for a house
That sounds familiar.
because I thought if this little girl got a house, then what? Because we always lived in an apartment. My father wasn't crazy about houses in Mexico, so we always had an apartment. And I was asking for a house because I wanted to have a horse, and I also wanted a no. And I'll ask you this question that I asked my mother when I was little. How come God didn't make smaller elephants for children who live in apartments?
They do make them real small, but they're stuffed, just like other stuffed animals.
Yeah, no,
An elephant.
my mom
I've
said
never been asked for an elephant.
my mom said, well, they're not pets, they're supposed to live in the wild and with
Well,
their
of
own
course, it
families.
depends on what part of the country you live in, what part of the world you live in.
Right,
Some children
in Africa.
in
Yeah,
Africa or around do have elephants that they're close with.
yeah, yeah. I love animals, all kinds of animals.
Likewise,
Do you have any pets, Santa, beside the rain? Well, the reindeer are not really pets; they're mostly
they're
your
friends.
transportation.
Well, it's we consider them transportation, but they're friends. I go down and visit each one, and at least once every 2 or 3 days, and talk to them and play with them, and they like to play and jump around too. Um, Mrs. Claus and I have always been partial to the shelters
Yes,
and bringing animals out of the shelters, seeing them. Um, it's hard for me to walk through a shelter because I want to take them all home with me.
same here.
We received one many years ago. She was a poodle. She was on a rehoming type of a situation. And just the beginning of this year, she had to be put down where I
Oh,
took her to the vet and held her all the way through to the end.
I'm sorry,
It was
Santa.
very, very heartbreaking. But my daughter, my youngest daughter, um, she's always there for me. And not that my other one isn't, but my other one's a teacher, and this one has a different type of a business. So she looked and found a poodle at a shelter in the downtown LA area, and she said, "Dad," she says, "I have one for you." So I saw the picture. I said, "Bring it home." She brought it home. She is my baby. She is. I can't go anywhere, and I mean anywhere, without that dog being underfoot, right by me, not moving anything. Shelter dogs know when you adopt them and how you treat them, and they really appreciate
Oh,
it.
they do.
Yeah,
Absolutely, they do. We have three. One little blind dog. We have a German Shepherd that was hit by a car, and when they found her, nobody claimed her. And then we have a pit bull who was ready to be put on death row. And I know people think dangerous, and I think the human is dangerous. The human who raises the dog to be a fighting dog or whatever. This people is the sweetest thing. Like you
yeah,
say, she's always following me around. If I go take a shower and I close the door, she'll wait at the door
exactly.
and just waiting for me. And she's really, really amazing dog. And people say, well, don't take one from the shelter because you don't know the history. I haven't had a problem with any of my shelter dogs,
Neither have I.
not even the pit bulls. This is the second one, and they turn out to be really sweet. Very frightened at the beginning, but once they realize they're home and that you love them, they just melt.
I see a lot of things on different dogs, pit bulls especially, because they're so misunderstood. And then we just had this one recently where the woman was attacked by a pit bull, and they wanted it to have it put down and all that. But it was determined that the woman would go over and kick the gate and throw things at the dog. And the dog was just protecting itself. So it went into the courts. The dog won, and they didn't put
Good.
the dog down. And they showed picture of the dog with the owner, and the dog was loving and kind and kissing and just the sweetest of dogs. So it depends on how you treat a dog. It's like if you treat a person wrong, and you beat them up and you hit them, and so they're going to react the same way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Definitely.
And even my German Shepherd, she tends to be aggressive. I don't know why, because when we got her out of the shelter, she was never aggressive towards us. And but she listens. She
Yeah.
listens, and she only reacts when she thinks somebody's trying to break in or hurt me, or then she'll react. But usually she's a nice, loving dog.
Yeah, I don't know if if either of my two would attack anybody trying to break in, but it's funny that you mentioned that a year ago, May, we had a break in at our house, and the intruder and I got into it, and I almost killed him. It was one of those situations when the police got there, but it's just one of those things. Not all dogs are or have the intuitive to protect the way some of the bigger dogs would do, and
Right.
so.
I think that if they saw your life in danger, I think that more than likely they will react. My people, her name is Maya. I think that if somebody broke in, she would probably show them where the stuff
Yeah,
is. She's so
exactly.
sweet.
I totally believe that. I
Yeah.
totally believe that. So
Santa, you mentioned when we spoke recently, you mentioned that being Jewish, you want to spread Judaism. You want to, you not spread it, but explain it and share with people what it's like or what is the meaning of being Jewish.
I grew up in a conservative household. My father was a yeshiva booker in Hungary, and my mother was one of four sisters to an Orthodox rabbi in Romania, to Israel, and then came to Detroit where she lived and met my dad. My dad came over and he went into Canada. He became a military corpsman in Canada. They met in Canada in Detroit and ended up getting married. And shortly thereafter, here I was. But anyway, I'm an only Santa, and we moved here when I was 5 to the Los Angeles area, and I grew up here. Um, as far as Judaism goes, it was hard in the beginning because unfortunately, like has happened to many people, I lost my dad at a young age. I was 16. He was 40. He was 51 and he had a massive heart attack and died. He was in a hospital when it
I'm
happened.
sorry.
And so it was my mom and myself until I met my wife, and we ended up getting married. But for the longest period of time, I just didn't have any recognition of any religion. I didn't want to hear of anything, and it had to do with having lost my father at a young age. However, I met with some of the rabbis through my wife when we first formed Valley Outreach Synagogue, and it just changed me. And there was just something about it, the attitude that Rabbi Sheket of blessed memory and Rabbi Fisher of blessed memory um, both put out there in the formation of Valley Outreach back in 1985. And I just picked up on a lot of things. I know that when I was young and I had, believe it or not, I had a bar mitzvah. When I had my bar mitzvah, I was with a synagogue over on Pico, Robertson area,
Mhm.
and I enjoyed doing it. I even thought of becoming possibly a cantor or rabbi because I was so involved with the junior congregation, but it was something I never followed through. But there's always been something in my back that has always kept me into the Jewish religion and to being Jewish. And when I see things that have happened in Israel that are devastating, you just don't know it. I'm too old to go over to fight. When I when I did my tour of duty back in the '60s, and they had the war over in Israel, a bunch of us Jewish fellows, we put in for exchange of duty over to the Mediterranean to be closer in case it ever got to a fight. And unfortunately, they turned all of us down because it just wasn't something that was in the books the way the service operates. But it was just something that always, held me back there. I remember my grandfather, the Orthodox rabbi, and how we used to do services at his house. My aunts, all four of my aunts, who were somewhat religion. One was Orthodox, her and her husband. They've all passed now, and I guess I'm carrying out the thing. I've also made it a point, and I leave it up to the child. I have four grandchildren, and right now, three of the four have had bar and bat mitzvahs. The fourth one is a little girl, and she is studying, and she's having her bat mitzvah in February.
Mazel tov.
And I have the grandchildren, and I have a doctor that I know, and he's a Moyle. He is also a licensed urologist at one of the hospitals, which I won't mention what it is. But I had talked to him once after seeing him do one on a cousin's child, a bris, and he did my great grandson's bris. And I was the sandic. I held the baby while he performed the procedure, and he did a great job. And it was like his mom said to me, we were at dinner one night with at a party, and she said to me, she says, Santa Claus, she says, Zadie, she says, do you want Hudson to have a bris? And I said, if it's okay with you, yes, and I'll take care of everything. And so we did. It was important for me to do that, to have each one of my grandchildren know about Judaism and their past. The gal that's teaching my granddaughter now, and who was the one that taught my other grandchildren, the other three, um, not only taught them how to read and to do their bar and bat mitzvahs, but taught them about Israel, the holidays, and all that stuff like that. And so that's become a very important thing for me to pass on to my grandchildren, um, Judaism and things that they should be aware of and know.
It should be that way. It should be that way for every Jewish family. For every family, actually, whatever your heritage is, I think you should teach it to your children.
Important, yes,
And
definitely.
so they don't forget where they're coming from. My great grandparents immigrated to Mexico from Lithuania. And I grew up knowing who I am and what I am. Very proud of it, very grateful that God chose to make me Jew. But I have family members that have assimilated, and some of them don't even know where they came from, and that's very sad to me. That's very sad that they don't know their heritage.
My dad's side of the family, my dad's side of the family, my grandmother and one of my aunts died in the concentration camps during the Holocaust. The rest of the sisters and brothers, they managed to get into the States, and they were all living in New York. They've all passed now, but they have children. One of them became an Orthodox rabbi. His sister is also Orthodox and married to a very nice fella. Um, and my other cousin, who came later on in 1956, she and her mom and dad came to the States. Um, and she is a well-known person in New York. She's been recognized for her talents and stuff like that. Her husband, Chaim, he's a great guy. I've met them. I've been back there. It's all kinds of strange, and um, it's like I went to a wedding back there, and the men are on one side, the women are on one side. Chaim brings over this guy to me. He says, "Do you know who this is?" And I said, "No, I don't recognize him." In the black complete with the hats and stuff. I don't recognize them all. He says, it's your cousin Avram Moshe. And so it was one of those things where you start learning a little bit of your heritage on the other side of the family where the Orthodox Jews live and stuff like that. My cousin that lives there, her son, Morty, they just got married a year or so ago, 2 years ago. They just had a child. But he sings with a group called the 613.
Oh,
And you can go online and look up 613, SIX13, and the singing group, they're an a cappella group, and they're fantastic. Every holiday they put up a song based on the music from the holiday, and so we wait to hear their songs every year and stuff like that. But he's a good kid, and he does just a lot of good things with his group.
that sounds wonderful. I'm gonna be looking it up. 613.
Yeah,
Nice. Speaking of nice, Santa, how do you determine who's nice and who's naughty?
I've been asked that question before, and the fact of the matter is no child is naughty. They're not naughty. They may do mischievous things and stuff like that, but no child is naughty. And if there is a problem there, then I think it's the parents' problem to find out what they can do to help and correct what there may be going wrong, and not let the child get over to a point where he does something drastic.
Right. Have you ever left a piece of coal in somebody's instead of a gift?
No, I've been carrying this one coal around in my bag for a long time, and yet have never left one. Tempted my grandkids with it, but no, I've never left one before.
You're too kind, Santa. You're too nice.
I appreciate that. It was funny, you talk about being nice. I do something for the Midnight Mission downtown,
Do you?
and
Tell me.
they have a special home. I can't mention anything about where it is or anything like that, but I've been going there. The director there, Ricardo, says it's been like 20 years that I've been attending their holiday party with their sponsors and everything. And I drive down there with my buddy who helps me go down there, and they have all the sponsors there, and they have all the people. They have maybe about 20 apartments there. It's a gated community type of a thing. They have a big yard there next door where they have all the toys and stuff. They do a lot of great things with their families. And um, what they do is at the end there they talk about Santa, and let's call Santa. He's flying above. I heard he's flying above, and let's call Santa so he knows where to come down and all that. And they start yelling for Santa, and I come in the back, and and everybody starts yelling and laughing and taking pictures and all. And usually, what happens in the past years, we've gone ahead and we sit down and we talk to them, and then we bring the families up one at a time. There's like about 20 units, and we have a main present for them that we give to the family. We take a picture of
Oh,
all the family and all. Prior to me coming in, the family, some of them will get up and talk about their experiences. I heard one young lady with her son. She was on the street. She was unable to do anything. They took her in. She's allowed to stay there for 1 year, no more. And at the end of a year, she had gotten her degree, became a registered nurse, had saved an exorbitant amount of money. Her son was going to school, had graduated like in the top of his class, so he was doing good. Because when the kids come home to the housing project, they have tutors sitting waiting for them to bring in each child and work with them on what they've been studying that day and teach them.
wow.
None of the homes there are allowed to have a television in the house. There's a main television in the main room that if they want to watch, they can come to. But everything is the family unit to grow up as a family and to work with the children. This year, they called for Santa. I came in, everybody took pictures. I was waving Merry Christmas to everybody. And then Ricardo brought me and sat me down on the stage area there. And we were talking, and he started telling everybody about me, who I was, and what I had been doing. And then he presented me with this lovely trophy
Oh,
with all kinds of stuff written on the bottom of it, nice things about what I had done. And it was a total shock. So, when you talk about doing a lot of things, yeah, I do, but, sometimes you get rewarded other ways.
yeah. How lovely. I want to share with you one of my pet peeves, Santa, now that you mentioned Christmas. I hate it when I go into a store, grocery store or department store, whatever, and as I'm checking out, the clerk will say, "Happy holidays." That annoys the heck out of me. I say, one time I said, "What holiday are you referring to?" And they just looked at me like, "Huh?" But mostly I just say, "And a Merry Christmas to you." And they usually smile and say, "Thank you, Merry Christmas." I People, please, you have two Jewish people here. Three, my husband is behind the camera. We are not offended by the word Christmas. I am not offended when people wish me a Merry Christmas, even if they know I'm Jewish, because to me that means that they're including me, and it's just a nice gesture. So please stop being offended on our behalf. I actually don't know any Jewish person who is offended by the word Christmas. We live in a Christian country, and it's okay to say Christmas. It's okay. It's okay to say Hanukkah. If you know I'm Jewish and you want to say Happy Hanukkah, thank you. I will say Happy Hanukkah to you too, or Happy New Year. But be specific. What holiday are you referring to? Happy holidays is not good wish in my little world.
Oh, goodness gracious. That question has come up more than once. I have a very good friend of mine who we started years ago in the same business, and he used to come to my apartment with my wife and his wife, and we used to have brunch there, and then I used to work with him, coaching him and teaching him uh, the trade that we were involved with, and then we watched football games, and we were very, very close. He ended up going on the road where I stayed here because I was married and he had a divorce. But he traveled all over the country working in all kinds of different places. And one day I was doing a television show with Santa's, and they set up the staging in the Union Hall that I had belonged to at the time, or I had retired from, I should say. And I was talking to the business agent. He was mentioning this guy. He had talked to them, and it was, "You're a Santa." Well, Stan's a Santa too, and he knew that we were good friends. So he contacted me, and I found out later on that it was like twins because although he traveled all over the country for 20, 30 years while I stayed here and worked, he everything that I got involved with it did. He did. Okay. And besides being Santa, he was a member of the Shriners. Those of you that are familiar with the Shriners know you have to be a member of the Freemasons to be a signer. And so he had joined the Freemasons, the Shriners, the Santas, and I did the same thing. And when the time came that we got back together again and met, we laughed because it was just one of the strangest things. He lived in Idaho. I lived here. He ended up moving to the East Coast, and he lives there now, and we're always communicating with one another. Just sent me a card. He knows I'm Jewish. Sent me a Happy Hanukkah card. That's fine, you know. I
Yes.
send him a Merry Christmas card. I know what his religion. I do that. But to meet a person in a cash register situation where you're going, um, I don't, I don't feel any different whether they say Merry Christmas or whether they say Happy Holidays or what. Sometimes they're told what to say by the management and
Right.
not allowed to really, say Merry Christmas. I know that I did for several years. I did a thing for a TV series that would do a yearly thing. They would meet every Friday for 3 or 4 Fridays, going to different places collecting toys for children. And I showed up there one day, like, this is Santa, and the gal that's in charge, who just retired, by the way, from this TV station. Um, she and I became kind of friends and acquaintances. And when I would show up, she would always give me a hug and stuff like. And I donated like 8, 10, 12 hours of my time there for free, helping with the bringing in of. But when it came time one year, I told her that I was going to come. She says, "Well, we got word from the station that they're concerned about Santa because Santa's a Christian religion thing and they don't want to do this and this stuff like that." And I said, "Okay, so understand that you're not aware of or knowing that I'm going to be there. But if I show up as Santa bringing gifts, you're not going to throw me out." She said, "Well, of course not." And so that's what I used to do. I used to bring 3 or 4 gifts and bring it in there, and I used to stick around for the rest of the evening with them, and did a lot of you know freebies, shall we say, pro bono stuff, and
Yeah.
talk
Yeah.
to all the kids that used to come in with their parents and bring toys for the kids.
I just feel that a happy holiday thing is another attempt to erase history and to erase religion. And the way
Well,
I
I want to say
understand
something.
it,
I want to say something.
yes,
I want to interrupt you.
yes,
If somebody knows that you're Jewish, okay, it's okay. Say Happy Hanukkah.
yes,
If they look at you and they say, "I can't tell if he's Jewish. I can't tell." We know he's not going to celebrate necessarily Kwanzaa, but I don't know whether he's Christian, whether he's Jewish, whether he's Muslim. I don't know what his religious background is. So it's Happy Holidays. That encompasses all the holidays, and it would cover you whether you're Jewish, whether you're not Jewish. That's my feeling toward it.
yeah. The way I see it is, it's celebrating Christmas. We're celebrating Christmas and we're celebrating Hanukkah. And I remember one time we were at the temple. I arrived really early, and the cantor arrived together with me. And the custodians, obviously, they're working at a Jewish temple, so they know she's a cantor, and they know. And one of the custodians said, "Merry Christmas." It happened to be Christmas Day. And he said to both of us, "Merry Christmas." And Cantor Linda and I just looked at each other, smiled, and we turned back and said, "Merry Christmas to you too. Thank you." There's nothing wrong with that. It's not offensive. He didn't
No,
mean any offense by that. He was just being a friendly,
it was a nice thing he did.
a friendly, inclusive kind of gesture,
Yeah.
and
It was a nice. It was a
yeah,
nice thing he did,
yeah,
and he wasn't doing it to be rude
or
or anything like
malicious or anything
exactly.
like
They
that.
said
No, 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 no.
whether he whatever he said, Christmas, holidays, uh, what would it have been if you turned to him and said Happy Hanukkah? I mean, I don't know
Yeah,
how just whatever. It shouldn't bother anybody.
I do that too sometimes. I do say Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy New Year, and then they laugh and they say, "So everything's covered, yeah."
Yeah, but you
Yeah,
got to add
exactly.
Kwanzaa. You got to start adding Kwanzaa now. Kwanzaa's only been around for I don't know how many years. It's been very short.
Yeah,
I looked it up one time. We were talking about it, and they were mentioning how Kwanzaa had established, and I don't remember it exactly,
yeah,
but I remember them talking about it. And, okay, so no big thing.
yeah,
Like you said, Happy Holidays covers everything. Or if you want to say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Kwanzaa, yeah, covered everything.
yeah. Santa, do you remember a particular child that left an impression on you in your heart?
Ooh, I remember a particular situation. I've had a few, but this one in particular stands out. I have a friend who's an officer with Topanga Police Department. His name's Duke. And Duke and I talk every year just before Christmas. This year, we haven't had a chance to talk, but if he wants to call me and you hear this, Duke, you know who you are, give me a call. And we go do things. We've done things where um, a woman wrote to, uh, I think it was to the LAPD to him, that I see you talking to Santa. I'm a widow. I'm handicapped. My washing machine blew out. And do you think Santa could bring me a washing machine for Christmas? It can be a used one, just something that I can use. I can't go to the laundromat. I have to find somebody that'll take me and stay with me and all this. And Duke, out of his own money, bought a washing machine from Fry's when they were
Hmm.
at cost. Some people ended up, I understood, giving him some money to help him pay for it. He took his buddy's red truck, put the thing in the back of the red truck, picked me up, and we went and delivered it. And we were on Channel 4. There's a video of us delivering it to her on Channel 4. That was one of the things. But this is the type of work that this officer does, and I've seen a lot of other things where he does it. But in particular, he was born in Vietnam and he came to the United States. And the school that he went to, the elementary school, he helps that elementary school because what they did for him. And I won't mention the store. I don't think I want to mention it, but he gets a large um, amount of money from them donated. And he turns around and he changes it over into $100 gift cards.
Huh.
And he goes to the school and he talks to the principals, and they get 25 children from that school who are underprivileged. And he takes the children with his fellow officers, and each officer takes 4 or 5 children, and they meet at the store. And each officer takes off with 4 or 5 children. They have their baskets, and they have that $100 card to spend any way they want. They can buy themselves anything they want because that's something that he does for them. And the fellow officers over at Topanga Division help him do this. And I'm there walking around with them, and people are flipping when they see Santa there and all, along with trying to figure out what the officers are doing. And the thing that I got from a lot of these children were, so what are you buying? Well, I'm getting this for so and so. A lot of the children were spending the money not for themselves, but they were buying for their relatives, for their friends. And it was just such a heartfelt thing to see these children not necessarily thinking about what kind of great toy I'm going to buy myself with this, but what they could buy for their
Yeah.
parents or their brothers and sisters or very close friends. And that's something that's always stuck in my mind. I'll always remember.
So Dookie's at the top of the nice list, isn't he?
Oh, they definitely made the nice list. Yes.
I'll tell you a quick story, Santa. There's only one time that I didn't cheat that I regret to this day. I was working at a Spanish language radio station, KALI, Radio Cali, and I dressed as one of your helpers. And we had another one of your helpers go. We went to this particular store and we held a raffle. And one of the things we were raffling was this huge Santa's stocking filled with all kinds of goodies that the store had provided, and we had other gifts, and there was no purchase necessary. We just gave away the tickets. So when we were conducting the raffle, there was one little boy that was so excited for the raffle, and I could have cheated because I knew what where, where his ticket had landed.
Yeah.
I knew the ticket, and I was the one grabbing the ticket, and I could have cheated, and I decided I wasn't going to cheat. So I took out a random ticket. The person won, and then the little boy came up to me and said, "Oh, it's too bad I didn't win that. My mom, and my sisters would have been so happy." I regret it to this day, Santa. Is it ever okay to cheat?
You didn't get the cold that year, did you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was the right thing to do, and deep down, you know in your heart that it was the right thing to do. Although you would have loved to have been able to work with the child and help the child out. When you mentioned that, it reminds me of a TV series where they had a raffle, and it wasn't a raffle that they were supposed to do, and the winning ticket they taped to the bottom of the bowl so that the person reaching
Oh,
in could go to the bottom bowl and pull it out,
oh, that's not
and the
nice.
person that won it was the priest, and of course the priest couldn't do what was suggested on the raffle ticket, but it was just one of those funny situations where
Oh,
but you did the right thing.
okay, Santa. That makes me feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
I want to ask for, I have a lot of things that I want to ask. I have a lot of things to be grateful for: my husband, my friends, my family, my pets, having finally met you personally. I'm grateful for so many things, but I have one thing that I want to ask for this Christmas or this Hanukkah. My friend Dennis Prager, as many of you know, had a very serious accident.
Oh, I didn't know
His his mind is sharp as ever, but his body is fighting, and he's in very good hands as far as doctors go. But he needs all the prayers he can get, and I want to ask for everybody to pray for his health. And Santa, if I could have a special gift this Christmas, it would be that he recovers his health fully, a complete refuah shlema. That's what I
that.
want for
Yeah.
him.
I know Dennis. I've watched him on TV before and stuff like that. I did not know of this accident or what had happened to him. Um, I do believe, because I've experienced it, where my daughter, my youngest one, was in a coma for 23 days, and it was on a Friday night, and they thought they were going to lose her. And the rabbi, I think it was Rabbi Fisher, knew of this, and they mentioned something at the synagogue, and they did a prayer that Friday night with all the members of the synagogue mentioning her name, and she turned around the next day.
Thank you, Santa.
I believe prayers
It,
do work.
they do work. And I want to thank you for being my special guest,
My
for,
pleasure.
for all the goodness and all the joy you spread throughout the year, not just in the special Christmas, Hanukkah holiday season. You are just an angel, like my mother said, and I am grateful for your presence and for you accepting my humble invitation to come to
Oh,
the
it
show.
was my honor and my pleasure to be here with you and talk with you and I can't talk with your people out there, but for them to know that Santa Claus is a special person and he does a lot of good no matter what his religious background is.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Remember to always, always be grateful. Until the next time, I am EJA Adler.
You're listening to The EJA Adler Show, only on LA Talk Radio.